One on all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book A Spiritual Passage, no other than Mr. Rand R. Timmerman.
Hi.
Well, welcome to Book 11, Mr. Brandon. Can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm a 72-year-old retired attorney who, well, I was 72, I'm 80 now, but in 2018, my brother and I hiked the Appalachian Trail, which is a 1,190-mile trail going from Springer Mountain, Georgia, through 14 states into Katahdin Mountain in Maine. It goes over 600 mountains, 300 of them are named. The drop in the elevation changes are 465,000 feet. So that's a lot of up and down. About 3 million people hike some part of the Appalachian Trail every year, Daniel,
Hmm.
but only between 2,500 and 3,000 actually try to hike the whole way. Of that number, about 17% or 450 actually go the whole way. Um, and my brother and I hiked it because his wife had just died. He was suffering a lot of grief. He was a very spiritual man. I was not a spiritual man. I was an alcohol. I am an alcoholic, and I got sober about 11 years ago. So we wrote a book about it. I wrote a book about it called The Spiritual Passage, and it's called The Spiritual Passage because of my brother's grief and my experiences in recovery and I didn't plan on writing a book when we did the hike, but I took 5,000 pictures. There's 500 colored pictures in the book that shows pretty much, the best shots, if you will, um, all the way across.
Mr. Rand R. Timmerman, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. How did your lifelong bond as brothers shape your ability to confront both the trail and your personal struggles together?
Well, that's a good question, Daniel. We grew up in Adams, New York, which is a very small rural village in upstate New York. Our father was paralyzed by polio from the waist down. We had a pretty rough childhood, very poor family, and to escape poverty when we grew up, we both went into the military service. My brother was in the Army. I went in the Marine Corps. We both did combat tours in Vietnam in 1966 through 68. And then um, I became commissioned as an officer. Neither one of us had a college degree at that point. I ended up going to college and I became a lawyer and actually had a pretty good career, but I abused alcohol uh, at times. And at the age of about 65, it took over. I don't know if you know anything about alcoholism, but it's a disease and it got me bad. My brother was always a very spiritual man. When he came back from Vietnam, he married our mother's best friend, Edie, who was divorced with 7 kids.
Mhm.
And my brother fell madly in love with her. They moved to Utah. And so my brother, after she died, he has 7 kids from that, from Edie's kids, 27 grandchildren, and 27 great grandchildren.
Wow.
So she left him as the patriarch of this huge family. She was a beautiful person. They were very spiritual, my brother, and he was a bishop in the Mormon church.
Mm.
But I lived in New York and he lived in Utah. I did not actually go to my brother's house until Edie died. I had never been there before. We saw each other in the summer, basically. And after she died, he was very mournful and said, we were hiking in Utah, and he said, I'm gonna hike the Appalachian Trail. And I thought, that is crazy. I, at that time, I was 72. He was 71. It just did not seem possible. And I asked him how he was going to do it, Daniel, and he said, I'm going to take a bus to Springer Mountain, Georgia, and start walking. And so that's not going to work very good. So I said, I will go with you. And so
Awesome.
we never had a bad relationship. We just didn't really know each other really well after all those years. I only see him once a year, for an hour, for a few hours usually. But he's a tremendous man, and we couldn't have done it without each other. I'm absolutely certain of that. It was very difficult. But
Mr. Rand, were there a moment on the trail where your disagreements mirrored the demons you face internally?
not really. I felt like I was there to help my brother. I got sober through a program and I had made a connection with a higher power and I became a spiritual man in my own right. So I felt that I was there to help him. We had a lot of problems. We never really had an argument or anything like that. I remember one night he said to me, at nighttime we walked on an average of 11 miles a day
Yes.
in the mountains. These are real, up and down 4 or 5,000 feet over and over and over again. It was very difficult. I fell every day. I broke 4 hiking poles. I have artificial knee from a bad motorcycle accident. And I have my right leg is a half-inch shorter than my left. So I limped I like to brag that the man that with the worst limp that ever hiked the Appalachian Trail. But one night my brother did say, he said, Rand, there's a lot of weird people out here. And I looked at him and I said, Ron, everybody out here is weird. And he goes, no, 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 we're not weird, bro. And I said, yes, we are. We're weird too, bro. Normal people don't do this. They just don't. It's so
Wow.
hard.
So, Mr. Rand, did your spiritual belief align perfectly during the journey?
Uh, that's a good question. It was adequate for sure.
Yes.
For me, so I gave my drinking problem over to God. I surrendered to a higher power in order to stay sober. I had an awful, awful time. I ended up in the hospital a number of times on suicide watch. I couldn't understand the nature of the addiction to alcohol, but I learned that it's alcoholics metabolize alcohol differently than normal people. And what happens is that the chemical process that happens in alcoholics creates an excess of acetone. And acetone is what creates that thirstiness that an alcoholic gets that they can't stop. And I went through life with all kinds of trauma from the Vietnam War, my brother too. Uh, I had horrible, we both had PTSD when we came back. We didn't know it. There was no definition for that back in the 60s,
Yes.
1960s. So we both carried that kind of with a fair amount of dignity and grace. My brother, much better than me, but I used alcohol too. But once I stopped drinking through a program and did the deal uh, and completed it more or less, you never finish it, but you can go through the 12, they call it 12 steps. And then I started working with other men, and I've been doing that now for the rest of my life, basically. So no, we supported each other. I got a really bad infection at one point, had to get medical assistance, and my brother, he went along with that and went back. And then at one point, he had a terrible breakdown, and I got him through that, and he wanted to quit. And I said, well, let's just go today, and then you can make up your mind. In the middle of the night, he got the night terrors, and so what I'm trying to say is that we both had periods of time where it was very difficult, and but we soldered each other up, and a couple times I had to have to remind myself, Rand, nobody's shooting at you. What the heck's the problem? Just go, just do it one step at a time, and that's what the subtitle on the back of the book is. It says, one step at a time.
Yes.
And that's the inspiration for the book in a sense, because I'm hoping it will inspire people when they have addiction, if they're older, their road is getting short and they don't like the way they feel, and they get a lot, or if you're young and depressed, you're going through a divorce or whatever it might be, that the book will inspire people. You can do almost anything one step at a time, right?
Yes.
If you don't
Baby
like
step.
what you're thinking or where you are, you move your feet. You go somewhere else and you do something. So no, we didn't have any big argument. We had a lot of laughs. There was a lot of funny things that happened.
So, Mr. Rand, what physical or mental preparations did you undertake that surprised you in their effectiveness for such a grueling challenge?
Another really great question. I was more the kind of guy who just grabs the gear and goes. My brother was a better planner, and he had, he knew what equipment we needed better than I did, and food and things like that, packs, all that kind of stuff. So from January of 2018 until we started the hike on March 22nd in the snow in
In the
Springer
snow.
Mountain, Georgia, if you can imagine. Uh, we were ready. The good news is that we both did a lot of hiking. I didn't know. I had no idea how much he was doing out in Utah in the mountains and the canyons and everything. And I did 26 marathons during my, younger days, and always walks. We were both pretty good shape for it, but 70s is not. It's not. I don't know. I certainly don't recommend anybody wait till their 70s to try to hike the Appalachian Trail. If you're going to be one of the 450 that make it every year, you might want to think about it in your 30s and 40s or maybe 50s. But yeah.
And how did your life experiences, both triumphs and failures, equip you for the trail in ways younger hikers might lack?
Wow, that's a great question. I never thought of that one. I think we were both kind of. My brother and I are not any better than, any other people our age that are in pretty good shape. We're not supermen, right? My brother certainly had a spiritual power that I had lacked, but by the time we did the trail, I had pretty good spiritual basis. I knew there was a higher power that took away my alcohol problem, and that if I could do the right thing every day, things would work out, right? The way they're supposed to. I'm not in charge. The big guy's got a plan, and so on and so forth. So, um, we prayed together some. We just helped each other out. We're not quitters. We're not
Yes.
quitters. And it was a lot of days where it was pretty hard. I'll tell you that for sure. Um, I couldn't hike with my brother. I can't keep up with him anyway because of my limp. So we never hiked alone. Very rarely did we actually hike together. But uh, yeah.
Mr. Rand, did you ever feel a sense of divine intervention or serendipity during the hike?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. My brother had a very spiritual moment on Father's Day in 2018. He was really grieving Edie's loss, and it was Father's Day, and he's got all these kids and grandkids and great grandkids, and very gloomy day. And there's a picture in the book of he came around a corner, and there was a ray of light that came down. It was the only light that appeared that whole day, and it looked like there was a man standing in it, like Jesus Christ or some like holy figure if you're of a different religion. And my brother was so just taken aback by that. And he felt like Edie was speaking to him through God. So that was one highly spiritual moment for him. For me, I came around a corner one day and there was a bear, the biggest black bear I have ever seen in my life. It was 15 feet from me.
Wow.
It stopped with its paw in the air, looking at me. I'm looking at it. And it is the most, I swear to you, Daniel, it was the most beautiful beast, creature of God I have ever seen in my life. His fur was so black and it just glistened. His head was like this big. I mean,
Yes.
he's like 15 feet from me. He's froze. And I have things that I can protect myself from bears. I've had some pretty bad encounters with bears. I always got out of them, obviously, but I didn't really feel threatened by him, but I was so excited. And I reached back to get my phone. I wanted to take a picture of him. And I
Yes.
brought my phone out. And when I did that, he whirled and ran down the trail and went left off the trail, and it sounded like a bulldozer going down the mountain. Now, the day before, I had seen a bear ahead of me, but he was like, you know, hundreds of feet away. The minute he saw me, he went off the trail, not another sound. So this bear went down the trail. Another hiker came up behind me. He goes, "What's that?" And I said, "That's a bear." And he says,
Yeah.
"That can't be a." I mean, it was, oh my God, unforgettable. I have a lot of pictures in the book of bears and all kinds of critters, a lot of snakes, rattlesnakes. I sat on a rack with a copperhead underneath. Another hiker said, "Rand, you know there's a snake under that rock?" I go, "What? You got to be kidding me." And I got up and very carefully stepped away. And yeah, there's a copperhead right under there. I took a picture of that. That's in the book too.
Mr. Ran, how did the natural world deepen your understanding of spirituality or resilience?
The premier moment for me was when we went through New Jersey and we got to the Hudson River. We crossed the Hudson River and went up into the mountains. And then the next morning, when I got up and started out, I was all by myself. And I'm standing on the top of a mountain with raptors way up above me. And I look across and I know I'm right on the edge of New Jersey, right? I know there's millions of people right below me, but it looks like I'm in the wilderness back in the 1700s. There is no visible sign of any human structure or life, except I finally realized about 50 miles away, I can see the top of the skyscrapers in New York City. And I thought, oh my God, that day, my spiritual belief in my higher power got way bigger because I realized how puny we all were, how big the world is, and how powerful God was that He could make and create this kind of a seemingly wilderness. It was just, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just, I knew that God's hand was enormous and beautiful, despite all the
Yes.
other things that go on in the world.
Yes, indeed. And Mr. Rand, as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
I published this book. I'm hoping that I've given a lot of the books away. I'm like I say, I have daily contact with people that are struggling with issues, a lot of them with addiction. But I've given a lot of the books away. I'm hoping that people can read this book, and if they're having a difficult time in their life, no matter what age they are, no matter what the difficulty is, they can take another look and say, you know what, there are things I can do one step at a time, and there are things I can enjoy life in some way or another. And for a lot of people, that's going to mean getting, helping your fellow human being, because that's a way that you can get joy. My wife's mother just died, and there's another lady in the nursing home, and she was talking to this lady today on the phone, and they were having a great old time. Can you imagine? There's this lady in Florida in a nursing home at the end of her
Yes.
life who shared her mother's end days, and now she has a new friend in my wife, and they're keeping each other, happy at some
Yes.
small level. So does that make any sense?
Makes sense. Empowering each other is something else. And good luck to your goals, Mr. Ran, and looking forward for more success. What would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to write their own book too, like you?
That is another great question. I've joined some author groups. It seems like the hardest thing people have is to set time aside to do their writing. It's like they put it down the list quite a ways. And my suggestion, what I do it every day, is usually at 9 o'clock, I just sit down and start writing. I don't worry about what's going to come out. I just start writing. Whatever's in my head goes, I just go, bleh, just let it
Yes.
come out. And if you
Yes.
start doing that every day, and then I go back and edit, and rewrite, I do a lot of rewriting. But if you're going to be a writer, you got to write. It's that simple. So give yourself a break, sit down, don't worry about what comes out, just write. You can straighten it all out later.
Yes, right, 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 people, and stop procrastinating. If you have the passion to write, again, share to the world. And thank you for your advice, Mr. Brand. How does your story challenge stereotypes about what's possible in the third act of life?
I think that our if two kind of ordinary guys like my brother and I can do this sort of thing, that almost anybody can do things that they probably think they can't do. They just have to have that mindset. I that change. If you're struggling, turn it over to a higher power and find something that you can do that you like and just go for it. And if you
Yes.
got the oxygen bottle with you and you're on the scooter, go to the park, go do something. Don't just sit around feeling sorry for yourself.
What do you want readers in their later years to feel or do after reading your story?
I would hope they would have to be inspired. I think also another thing that they could do is, this is a cherished time at the end of your life, especially if you have family, that you can kind of reconstruct the best parts of your life and tell stories that they've never heard before.
Yes.
If you and exercise your grace and dignity that you've acquired during your life and your wisdom.
Mm.
Today we have a lot of isolation because people are on their computers all the time and they don't go visit people. They talk on the phone, or worse yet, they sit next to each other and text to each other instead of talking. That's what. Yeah.
Yes. Technology nowadays. And Mr. Ran, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review for sure it's in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and law 101 and Mental Health 101 is my baby podcast. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 review, and Music 101 and in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in each first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Ran, if your journey had a single mantra or lesson, what would it be?
Never give up. Never give
Never
up.
give up.
One step
Try,
at a time. Whatever you can do, do it.
yes. Try and try and try until you succeed, people, and don't give up because if you give up, you are the failure. Mr. Rand Timmerman, thank you so much for sharing your book to the world as well as your knowledge and wisdom. So, can you please invite our listeners to support our spiritual passage?
Yes, they can get my website, randtimmerman.com. I know you have it it's in the on your program too. So thank you for your support and this opportunity. I appreciate it very much.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Rand Timmerman because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Rand, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much.
More to come, people. See you soon.